Hello, and thanks for joining me for today's collective creativity reading. Let's just go ahead and tune in for a second and see what it is that we need to know today. I'm getting this feeling like a request to focus in, kind of like a laser beam narrowing its field so that its aim can be really true. Let's see. Let's start with the Starseed. Woo! Starseed Oracle today. Hope y'all are doing really well. Let's just give this a shuffle. Yesterday we got our first summer thunderstorm up here. It was great. All right, let's see what there is for us to know with the Starseed Oracle. Sort of like the overarching message portal of the day, I suppose. Just tuning in with our souls. Okay, let's see. Star family. You're part of a team of souls. Call in support. This is really trippy because these are four, like this concept of us as a collective, all of us creative people. It's kind of on the nose. Star family. At some stage, we were each part of a soul cluster, a gathering of souls who broke away from one another to experience themselves individually. Those who are part of your soul cluster are part of your star family. Ooh. Your star family are those souls who are cut from a similar cosmic cloth. You haven't just experienced lifetimes together, your souls were once actually one. Whoa. I think this is like, you know, the feeling of kindred spirit where like you meet someone and you're like, do we know each other already? And you've like actually never met. I've had a couple of these recently. It's very common for star family members to incarnate at similar times to work with anchoring a similar frequency of light and to cross paths with each other. You know that someone is part of your star family when you feel like you know and remember them from the moment you meet. They feel instantly familiar and comfortable. Time both passes quickly and stretches when you're with them. You feel more yourself with them than anyone else. It can sometimes feel like looking in the mirror because in a way you are. Often you'll go out of your way to help those in your star family, instinctively knowing it's part of your path. Oh. When a star family member dies, you feel it very deeply, regardless of how long you knew them. A certain soul mourning or soul breaking occurs. Wow. Who do you think is from the same star family as you, and how can you call on them for support? Ooh, yeah. So thinking about this in relation to the kind of like laser beam imagery that I was picking up at the very beginning of this, it feels like a pretty pointed, hey, zero in on places where you'd like some support. And where does it feel like maybe it doesn't feel natural to get support necessarily or to ask, but in what area does it feel right for like the next phase of what you're doing to receive some support? And maybe support is like some feedback on something really specific, like again, that laser focus thing. Like sometimes when we're working on a project, like for example, as I'm growing this channel, I've been asking some people for some really specific feedback, because if we say something very general, then we're kind of at the whim of whatever that other person interprets and feels about the thing, instead of it being like, hey, I'm trying to decide between this thumbnail style and this one and this one. Can you tell me your gut instinct, which one you're most attracted to? So then they're not like, oh, I like this one because this. It's more like, oh, I immediately like was attracted to this. And it's like, okay, thanks. That's exactly what I need to know. I think that this is often kind of a missed opportunity, especially in creative community. Like, I don't know about you all. I feel like most of the creatives that I know love to give, and like love to give time and effort and feedback and like help people make things better. And sometimes we want that level of support from people where it's just like the slathering on of feedback. And sometimes we just need like a little tiny laser pointer bit, you know? But if we aren't clear on our side about what it is that we're really looking for, we can't receive it. So I wonder if this is also kind of asking us to be really specific and clean with ourselves about what it is that what support we actually want and need. Yeah, it's pretty cool. I also, again, on theme for some of the readings that we've had the last week or so, there's this element of team and connectedness, call in support, like you're part of a team, and really remembering that what you're creating and whatever it is that's bringing you a lot of joy and fulfillment isn't just for you. It's actually going to be like growing into other people's gardens too, if that makes sense. Wow, pretty cool. All right, Star Family. Thank you, Starseed Oracle. So I'm feeling like it would be probably to clarify this. I think we should go, this is a little like unorthodox for me, but I'm kind of feeling like Sacred Rebels is the next one here, because the energy in this feels very tangible, tactile, like get to work energy. So Sacred Rebels is really great for that. So let's just go ahead and ask for a little bit of specificity and clarification here. Okay, man, I love this deck so much. I feel as a creative person, one of the kind of pains that, I don't know if people talk about it. I talk about it with my coaching clients all the time. It's like a thing I think about and agonize over there's this thing that happens when you're creating something that's like, there's this almost blissful feeling when you're in your imagination, about like all the different possibilities of the thing. And when it's up there in your imagination, it can be anything and everything that it could ever possibly be. And then when you start to go and make it, there's like this translation, because it's changing form. It's going from like all possibilities and I'm high on my idea, and then it's going into becoming something in our tangible reality. And in the translation, it's like changing form. We're letting go of a lot of ideas about it so as to focus on bringing one into form. And I often feel a sense of pain. Like it took a long time for me to realize that's what it is, but there is a little bit of like painfulness in that translation that's happening. So I have no remedy for it. I just want to acknowledge it. Just for like greater harmony for us with our creations. Okay, let's tune into the Sacred Rebels deck and see what message it has for us here. Oh, shoot. Pandora's gift. This is wild. This is a card I get when I rarely draw Pandora's Gift. It's the very last card in this deck. I think. Let me just double check. Pandora 45. Yeah, it's the very last one. Look, there's a whole page of just her at the end, Pandora, with this beautiful mask that's like covered in feathers and a butterfly, and there's all of these kind of, it looks like ancient codes just like wrapping around her, sort of emerging from this light kind of at her heart center. Pandora's Gift. I have only ever drawn this card when I'm like about to go on a very specific type of vacation to Disney World with my best friend Bay. I have gotten Pandora's Gift before that trip. Sometimes at the beginning of like a cycle of something, like a week, like on a Monday, I like to draw a card from this deck that's sort of like the guiding light for the week. And if I'm going on a trip or something, I also kind of open up the trip with a card as well that sort of like carries me through, kind of like a thing to return to and to kind of be guided by and inspired by. And Pandora's Gift is the one I get when Bay and I are going to hang out in Orlando. Okay, let's see. Pandora's Gift. There's a mythic woman, much maligned throughout history, whose name means all gifted. Pandora lives within us as our curious nature, yearning to conquer chaos, evil, and darkness with the light of knowledge. She is the hopeful voice of our soul that brings the questions, and in doing so, triggers the process that brings the answers. That's kind of similar to the imagination, and then the process, and then the thing. Like, there's a thing that creates a thing. Okay. Sometimes it is through uncomfortable learning that we find our treasure. Pandora reminds us that the process of learning can take us to places that seem like the end of our world, and yet all is not lost. Oof. Oh, let me just read that again. Pandora reminds us that the process of learning can take us to places that seem like the end of our world, and yet all is not lost. I feel like anyone who's been through any kind of transformation in life knows that. That is like a very real, so in the transformation industry, we talk a lot about like the caterpillar and the butterfly, and we're like, in order to become a butterfly, the caterpillar has to turn into goo. And so it sort of is like a way to think about the like icky process when you're moving from, one version of yourself to another. And there are times when I think that's a nice analogy. But what I find about this is it's so much more specific, because that's what it feels like sometimes when you're shedding part of you and moving into something new. It does sometimes feel like the end of the world, because it is the end of your known contexts about living. Maybe you are making some changes maybe you're self-employed, you're making some changes to your business, and you're like, why isn't it working? And like, in order to actually let the new idea work, you have to let go of some ways of doing things that are like, I don't want to say comfortable as in like cozy, but comfortable as in like there's a certain amount of evidence that you have that they're supposed to work, but like they're not working for you anymore. And you're like, there's a part of me like really being called to doing something else. But it does kind of feel like an end of the world emotionally. It feels like, oh God, I have to confront this thing that I've been battling against for so long in order to have the new chapter begin. Whew. Even now, the light within you is stirring for new revelation, new life, and new adventure. Pandora is all gifted and all giving. Her presence invites you to forego your belief in judgment. Now is the time to surrender the misplaced guilt that you may have brought upon yourself or another. Some terrible, maybe she means some terrible thing happening. I think that's what that means. It is time to let go of the shame-based belief in punishment. Yeah. So this thing about like being taken to places that feel like the end of our world, usually when we get to that point, there is like this shame-based self-inflicted punishment that happens that brings us back from the edge. We're like, okay, we're going to go back to the center, back to the thing that's super comfortable. And then Pandora is actually saying, hey, if you get to that edge, what if you don't shame and punish yourself What if instead you keep going? This is a belief that you deserve to be brought to task over any perceived imperfection, or that your natural human journey somehow renders you inadequate. Pandora frees the soul from such torment. This is her gift. The human journey necessarily involves learning through experience. There's no shame in your learning process. Pandora's presence is the sign of a new time, a time to swap the notion of inherent shame for the acceptance of inherent divinity. From this moment on, how unstoppable you shall become. Wow. Pandora is the leader of your soul revolution. She defies the vicious judgments of history and all that has been said about her. She shrugs off misery, despair, and the weight of the world to recognize that she is the bearer of the true and beautiful light of peace, comfort, hope, and reassurance. With her oracle comes the realization that you too are a divinely defiant believer in hope, who shall cast off the works of anyone who seeks to torment you. Wow. You're being put on divine notice from the sacred feminine that there is a talent, an ability within you that needs to be acknowledged. Wow. This is really giving me chills. Pandora, man. This is pretty big. Oh, wow. Look at it again. I feel like my relationship with Pandora is like you're getting on a good roller coaster and you're like, I don't really know, like for the first time. So you're like strapping in for a ride, but you don't know what it's going to be like. Pandora is often like that, but always in a positive way, always with the best intentions at hand. And one thing I also love about this card, especially for this reading, like when it comes to soul family, is like I'm sort of getting this sense of like communal waking up, like communal dance. Like I'm gonna dance my talents out, and then that's gonna kind of shake other people's talents out too. I love it. Oh my god. Hang on a second. Pandora. Wow. I'm like really rocked by this. The other thing I really appreciate about Pandora showing up here is, like I said, it's the card that I get before I go on a big theme park adventure. And that's like the place where I feel the most alive. And so I kind of appreciate at this phase of this kind of like collective creativity thing that we're doing here, you and me, is really feeling like the energy that I feel, the energy of like happiness and possibility and like being open to being very surprised by what happens in a positive way is also part of our journey here. So it's for you, it's for me, it's for the us that these readings are really in service to. So I'm definitely curious if you could comment if this is resonating. If you could comment below and tell me like, what is Pandora's gift shaking up in you? And to me, she's sort of like the ultimate harbinger of transformation. You know, like her mask, it has like feathers and butterfly and like all of these different really beautiful components, kind of creating this sense of like, I'm the shaker-upper. I love it. All right, everyone. I feel like this is a good place to leave it. This is like enough energy for right now, and it's like really big and making me very giddy. All right. Hope this is really helpful. Thanks, and I'll see you next time.